Very recently, a seismic event in British history took place, with the epicentre being the House of Commons. After a mere 2 hours of debate, MPs voted by 379 votes to 137 for the de facto legalisation of abortion up to birth. What seems to constitute a mere blip in parliamentary history, with the media having long moved on from talking about it, was years in the making and will be disastrous in its consequences. I'm William Curry, and this is Viewpoint. If you were to ask the average person in 2025 what comes to their mind when they hear the word decriminalisation, there's a good chance their answer would refer to the decriminalisation of something like cannabis or drug use in general. In recent weeks, however, decriminalisation has been talked about in the media, sadly with reference to abortion. One would be forgiven for thinking that abortion was long ago decriminalised, given that it's widespread, claiming over 250,000 unborn lives every single year. However, the Abortion Act of 1967 technically retained the illegality of abortion in certain circumstances, whilst making it legal in other circumstances. So, certain laws protecting unborn children, to a degree, are at the heart of this debate, and it is these that certain MPs have been seeking to overturn. They are Sections 58 and 59 of the Offences Against the Person Act 1861, which refer to the procuring and administering of drugs used to cause abortion, and the Infant Life Preservation Act 1929, an act which created the offence of child destruction. It was Tonia Antoniazzi's new Clause 1 of the government's Crime and Policing Bill that was voted for on the 17th of June 2025, and it is this clause that we will delve into. In her explanatory statement about her amendment, Antoniazzi said, "This new clause would disapply existing criminal law related to abortion from women acting in relation to their own pregnancy at any gestation, removing the threat of investigation, arrest, prosecution, or imprisonment. It would not change any law regarding the provision of abortion services within a healthcare setting, including but not limited to the time limit, telemedicine, the grounds for abortion, or the requirement for 2 doctors' approval." Antoniazzi's description of her amendment suggests that, should it pass, very little will actually change. Her amendment would retain the status quo with regards to abortion time limits, but just mean that women could not be investigated for acting in relation to their own pregnancy. In practical terms, is this actually true? Well, no, it's not. For starters, as the explanatory statement says, this applies to a pregnancy at any gestation. This therefore would legalise abortion up to birth, if it is induced by the woman herself. In addition, women who would not consider performing dangerous late-term abortions on themselves because it is against the law could be encouraged to do so, harming not only their unborn child, but potentially themselves. In short, the consequences of the implementation of new Clause 1 could be disastrous for women, yes, but primarily here for unborn babies. Now this brings me to another point. This considerable change to the law was assented to by MPs after a mere 2 hours of debate. MP Julia Lopez summed up the absurdity of this.
"We are being asked to rewrite a profound boundary in British law that protects the unborn child with 2 hours of debate on a Tuesday afternoon. That is not responsible lawmaking, it is procedural ambush."
What makes the passage of new Clause 1 all the harder to accept is that there has been no major cry from the British people demanding the legalisation of abortion up to birth. In fact, as we have seen with the recent campaign for assisted suicide, the cry has come from powerful pressure groups, organisations like PPAS, with something to gain, and ideologically driven MPs, who claim to be representing their constituents' concerns, but are so transparently representing their own. But don't just accept my word when I say that the British people do not want abortion up to birth for any reason, with no legal repercussions. Listen to the evidence. A poll commissioned by the Society for the Protection of Unborn Children sampled the opinions of 2,000 people. 67% of respondents agreed with the poll statement that abortion is a matter of life and death, and it is therefore appropriate that the criminal law provides a clear boundary to protect everyone involved. Just 14% disagreed. And the response from people in the media has further confirmed that the public had and have no appetite whatsoever for abortion up to birth. The day after the vote, journalist Melanie McDonough voiced her anger and disbelief in The Spectator, writing, "Anyone like Carla Foster, who aborted her baby Lily at 32 weeks gestation, will now get off free. There are, in other words, no sanctions for those who kill a fetus at any time right up to birth, so long as it's your own fetus you're killing. Are we meant to think that women in these situations are always desperate, never motivated by malice, never out for revenge, never callous or cruel or casual about unborn life? Are we, in short, denying women moral responsibility for their actions? Looks like it to me." The vote on decriminalisation has also thrown up another problem with British politics, and more widely, with Western culture in general. This is the problem of personal anecdote, experience and emotions prevailing over foundational principles. Journalist Tim Stanley summed this up immediately after the debate, saying, "Life issues are very hard to debate without considering first principles. But our culture doesn't do philosophy. We prefer personal experience, and when we do flirt with ethics, we favour personal autonomy. Hence, this wasn't a left/right vote. It reflects the cultural consensus." Personally, I think the mood of the majority of people on this issue can be summed up by journalist and presenter Julia Hartley-Brewer. Julia is someone who would consider herself pro-choice to a degree. But when she came up against a doctor campaigning for decriminalisation on the morning of the vote, she had the following to say.
Just stopping the prosecution of women.
But a woman should be prosecuted. But a woman should be prosecuted if there's no reason to end her pregnancy, not for her life, not for the baby or the disability. And lots of people disagree with that, I understand, but that's my position. It seems to me that a woman should be prosecuted. If you bought your baby at 7 or 8 months and there's no medical reason for that, yes, I think you should be prosecuted. I would like you stigmatised. I think you're a baby killer.
I think, Julia, I guess language like baby killer is also very unhelpful.
Well, you're killing a baby. I think baby killer is a reasonable phrase to use.
This gets to the heart of the issue, because when people realise that decriminalisation actually means our politicians are giving a green light to abortion up to birth, they are rightly horrified. In conclusion then, whilst the recent vote represents a major setback for unborn babies and for the pro-life movement in general, it could also signal a turning point. Arguably, the abortion lobby have overplayed their hand in campaigning for abortion up to birth. Everyday men and women who ordinarily don't think about abortion are now being forced to think seriously about it. And what is their response? Well, as our polling indicates, the majority of people are sickened by the notion of abortion up to birth. And so it is incumbent on us in the pro-life movement to seize this moment and show people the inherent evil of all abortion. After all, what is the difference in value between an unborn child in the earliest stage of life and an unborn child about to be born? We know that there is no difference, but now with renewed determination, we need to convince everyone else.